Meet me, and I just canceled everything else and hired her that day.
This gorgeous little, like, munchkin of a girl. And yet she was as smart as all the adults around her.
At 8, she set Hollywood ablaze.
Can you believe that fireball that nearly singed the back of my head?
And at 12, she became the poster child for Just Say No.
She has pledged to help educate her friends and public at large about the dangers of drug abuse.
But all Drew Barrymore did was say yes.
Drew had her first line of cocaine at her school's prom.
I don't know any kid that hasn't had to deal with it, including me.
Drew looked like a prime candidate for child star oblivion.
Drew is perfectly positioned to have the life of a complete disaster.
She endured a rocky relationship with her mother.
Jade was completely invested in wanting her child to have a major career.
Went through rehab.
I was too drunk. I mean, I was like, they had to like practically carry me in there.
And grabbed love wherever she could get it.
Drew came and told us, I'm gonna get married. And we're like, wait a second.
We got married last weekend in Cleveland.
Marriage didn't solve the problems they had.
Then, Drew bounced back, full throttle.
She is happy to be herself. She's happy to be on the screen.
Honest to God, she's one of the best producers I've had.
I've never known anyone to get back on the horse immediately. It doesn't matter what happens, she gets right back up there.
She's a producer, she's a wonderful actress, and I'm very proud of her. She had it then and she has it now.
This is the story of an actress who turned a dysfunctional family saga into a real-life Cinderella story.
I'm Drew Barrymore, and my favorite show on E! is the True Hollywood Stories. I like them a lot.
Oh my God! This is insane. Thank you.
February 3rd, 2004. 28-year-old Drew Barrymore became the 5th member of her famous family to receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
It's Drew Barrymore.
Drew joined her grandfather John, great-uncle Lionel, great-aunt Ethel, and father John Jr. in the elite club. Drew's star occupied some prime real estate.
I can't believe it. That's not mine. Oh my God! I'm like right in front. I will never forget this day, and I'm completely in the moment, and I'm so excited. I feel like throwing up.
The youngest Barrymore was at the height of her career, an A-list actress commanding millions per picture. Drew was also a powerful producer.
Drew can go. She can produce, she can write, she can handle her business. She knows the business, she knows that camera. She knows all the essence there is to know about her profession.
But flash back 15 years and there was a very different Drew Barrymore roaming around Hollywood.
Drew was in her room, she was locking herself in her bathroom to smoke cigarettes, or she was going to smoke marijuana with her friends, or she was going on sleepovers and binge drinking.
The cute and cuddly child star of E.T. struggled with drugs and alcohol, and she was only 13 years old. For this little girl lost, the toxic combination of fame and addiction was all in the family.
The Barrymore legacy is one of great talent and even greater self-destruction.
With this frame. Ooh.
The Barrymore saga is a story more than 130 years in the making. It began with Drew's great-grandmother, stage actress Georgiana Drew.
A divine comedian. She was a very gifted comedian, very witty.
In 1876, Georgiana married a debonair British actor, Maurice Barrymore.
The marriage between Georgiana and Maurice was very beset by all sorts of problems. Basically, he wasn't faithful, he was an alcoholic.
Despite those problems, the couple had 3 children, Lionel, Ethel, and John. All 3 siblings followed their parents into the theater.
By the time you get the generation of Lionel, Ethel, and John, you have an incredible heritage there, an outstanding heritage of devotion to acting. They were charismatic. They were stars.
With their good looks and commanding presence, the Barrymores were perfect for a new kind of entertainment, moving pictures.
John Barrymore was a leading man, so he got more attention than his siblings, just because he was so stunning and so charismatic and so kind of egotistical, but in a charming way.
By 1930, 48-year-old John Barrymore was the most admired actor of his day.
What may this mean that thou did cause?
Oh, please let me stay.
I want to be alone.
That isn't true. You don't want to be alone.
He had that wonderful bone structure. He was called the Great Profile, a term which he deserved because his features were just chiseled.
John, in front of the camera, was extraordinarily vain.
But vanity wasn't Barrymore's only vice.
He liked to drink, and he drank everything. He tried to get through a trip on a boat without liquor. And finally, he wound up drinking engine coolant just because it had alcohol in it.
Lionel and Ethel Barrymore had their own vices. Ethel's was alcoholism. Lionel became, because of a mysterious injury, he became a drug addict. John Barrymore was larger than life in every way. He drank more, he caroused more, he married more.
In 1932, John Barrymore was on his third wife. The marriage produced a son, John Barrymore Jr.
I doubt that there was too much closeness. He would play with him, frantically buy him toys, do everything, and then completely forget about him.
By the mid-30s, Barrymore was drowning in a sea of booze.
What it did was rot his memory, and soon he had to be chalked. He had to have chalkboards, and he had to be cued, and the cameras had to stop while he tried 20 times, 30 times, 35 times to remember a line.
And so he never saw any reason not to drink, even when it was obviously torpedoing his career.
Gentlemen from the newsreel have informed me that they wish to see the Barrymore profile. That is as much of it as is left. Here goes. What the hell I'm supposed to be looking at, I don't know.
Barrymore literally drank himself into the grave. When he died on May 29, 1942, the 60-year-old actor had just 60 cents to his name. A decade later, Barrymore's son, John Jr., carried on the family tradition.
He envisioned himself as following in his father's footsteps, the great John Barrymore.
The younger Barrymore made a string of westerns in the 1950s and 60s.
His biggest success was a role in The Sundowners.
You and me been together a long time. We've been the whole family just by ourselves ever since I was 10 years old. But like his father and grandfather before him, John Jr. battled the bottle.
He canceled contracts and stood up studios and got into trouble.
In 1972, 43-year-old John Jr. met a struggling young actress named Ildiko Jade Mako. Jade managed an LA rock club.
She didn't really think about the future or stability. She was just kind of taken away by the mystique of the glamour of this Barrymore name.
The following year, John and Jade decided to get married, but the union was rocky from the start.
They'd been having trouble all along, and the problems didn't really go away. But I think Jade really wanted to have John's baby, and I guess they both thought that maybe a baby would keep them together.
In the spring of 1974, Jade learned she was pregnant. The prospect of parenthood only complicated matters at home. Jade soon walked out.
And just because of his drinking and drugging ways, she couldn't really trust him to be a good influence, or to be a stable force in her life.
On February 22nd, 1975, Jade gave birth to a girl. She named her Drew, after the baby's great-grandmother.
She named Drew after the Barrymore family, kind of as a symbol of her own kind of unfulfilled hopes for her own life.
Jade had a baby with a famous last name, but no money.
It was me and my mom, and she was the manager of the Comedy Store and the Troubadour.
She was still trying to act. She was still trying to go on auditions and do all this. And meanwhile, she had Drew.
In January 1976, a dog food company needed a cute kid for a TV commercial. Jade took 11-month-old Drew on her first audition.
There were babies hanging off the chandeliers and babies everywhere, and my mother brought me in, and I was playing with the dog. I'm supposed to be playing with the dog, and the dog bit me on the nose, and everybody sort of went, oh my God, lawsuit, and they panicked and freezed, and I started laughing, and they were like, she's hired! And that was how I got my first job.
This is a baby, and this is a baby. They both have special nutritional needs.
The following year, Drew was cast in the TV movie Suddenly Love. Drew was close to her mother, but Dad, John Barrymore Jr., rarely showed up.
Drew had basically no relationship with her father. He may have come by a handful of times.
Suddenly Love wrapped in March 1978, and Jade wanted her daughter to quit acting. Juggling 2 sets of audition schedules for both mother and daughter was tough on Jade. But 3-year-old Drew begged her mother to let her keep working.
I always knew that I wanted to do it. I think my friends used to make jokes that I came out of the womb saying, I want to be an actress.
With her angel face and sunny disposition, Drew was a natural.
I did this cookie commercial, and I remember I had to eat these cookies all day long, and each one had to taste like the most excellent cookie you've ever eaten. By the end of the 12th hour, I never wanted to see another cookie for the rest of my life.
She wanted the attention so much, and she needed it so much, and she found that, you know, with all eyes on her, she just came alive.
In 1979, Drew was cast in the sci-fi thriller Altered States. A TV movie followed, and by 1981, the 6-year-old actress was a showbiz vet.
I've never done this before. Why me?
At an age when most girls played with dolls, 6-year-old Drew Barrymore made waves in Hollywood. It seemed only a matter of time before the adorable kid with the famous last name scored a breakout role. Drew's shot at the big time came in 1981. She auditioned for a role in a new horror film produced by Steven Spielberg.
I met with Steven. I originally went in for Poltergeist, actually. And he took one look at me and said, you're wrong for that movie. And I was sort of like...
As he was casting Poltergeist, he saw, you know, just that Drew was just amazing.
In fact, Spielberg thought Drew was perfect for his next project, a fantasy adventure about a lovable alien stranded on Earth.
Drew came in bragging about the fact that she was on the road with a punk band.
I was the drummer of the Purple People Eaters, and he thought that was fascinating.
I said, oh my God, this girl has, she's 6 years old, she's got an amazing imagination. And I talked to her. I said, oh, yeah, tell me more about your band. So we talked about that, engaged her, and she read for me, but the most important thing was who she was.
And the final audition was for me to scream, and I broke the monitor.
And I had 30 other young kids scheduled to meet me over the next 3 or 4 weeks after her, and I just canceled everything else and hired her that day.
Spielberg cast Drew as Gertie, the vivacious little sister of Elliot, the central character in the film.
And I remember Drew saying to me, well, how long have you been acting? You know, and I'm like, well, this is I think my 3rd thing to ever do, you know. Drew was like, oh, you poor thing. You know, I've been doing this since I was a baby.
On September 8th, 1981, production began on E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Jade took leave from work to be on set with her daughter.
Why are all those wires? Those aren't wires, those are feet.
The 61-day shoot was grueling, but Drew and her young co-stars Henry Thomas and Robert McNaughton became fast friends.
We were all together at pretty much all times. We'd all go to school in the same room, and so, yeah, we got along well.
Drew also formed a special bond with her director.
She had a huge crush on Mr. Spielberg. It was a 6-year-old, totally enamored. I remember when Drew would talk, it would be, Steven. I mean, she would say it like that. Well, Steven said.
He was like a great father figure in every sense of the word, something she never had before.
Drew basked in the attention, but she longed for a relationship with her own father.
He was never truly capable of giving her what she hoped that they could have. He didn't really stay around.
Still, Drew thrived on the set, and Steven Spielberg knew how to keep his young cast happy.
I think the day of Halloween, we had the greatest day in the whole wide world.
Steven dressed up as a woman and Drew was beside herself.
He directed all day as this great old lady. I think up until that point, I think that was the moment in my life where I went, oh, this is what happiness is.
Drew loved having fun, but when it came to acting, she was all business.
I remember one time, it was quite cold in the studio that day, and Drew went and grabbed a scarf and wrapped it around E.T.'s neck and said, so he doesn't get cold because we got to go eat lunch, and when we come back, and we've got to shoot. So she was worried he would, take sick leave and hold up the production.
In December 1981, filming wrapped on E.T., but Steven Spielberg didn't forget his little star. He took on the role of Drew's honorary godfather. Drew had a tough time adjusting to life away from the set.
Drew actually had just come off of doing E.T. when Jade got work on Night Shift, this movie with Michael Keaton. To come off from this very supportive environment and to come home to her mother never being around, it was killing Drew. So at that point, Jade was like, well, forget this.
In 1982, 36-year-old Jade put acting on hold to spend more time with her daughter.
Jade was completely invested in wanting her child to have a major career. She wanted everything, and I think she projected her own hopes and dreams onto Drew, and I think that was a huge pressure on the little girl.
On June 11th, 1982, E.T. the Extraterrestrial landed in theaters. The movie received outstanding reviews and quickly became the must-see film of the summer.
I remember we were in the Universal Hotel once doing the press junket for E.T., and it opened at the Cinerama Dome. And the line was 3 blocks long, and it was on the local news of, this big phenomenon. And
he is the cutest alien I have ever met insane.
Well, E.T. was just the universal movie. It was the movie that everyone liked. If you were old enough to go to the movies, from that age on up, you liked that movie.
E.T. grossed nearly $200 million in its first 2 months of release and turned the young cast members into instant celebrities. Suddenly, everyone knew the name Drew Barrymore.
Within the span of 1 weekend, she went from being a regular kid to being just like somebody everybody knew, that everybody on the street would chase after.
Drew already had a wisdom in her eyes that people could read, and I think that was so much of her appeal, is that here was this gorgeous little munchkin of a girl, and yet she was as smart as all the adults around her.
Drew charmed audiences wherever she went, including appearances on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and Good Morning America.
I feel like I'm getting to be a star.
Are you?
Yeah.
Do you like that?
Yeah, I feel good when I see myself up on the screen.
On November 20th, 1982, 7-year-old Drew made showbiz history. She became the youngest host of NBC's Saturday Night Live.
In the opening segment, I'm sitting in my dressing room, and they all come by to console me. Something's wrong. I don't even remember what that was. And they say, oh, would you like a glass of milk? And I went, I'm at Barrymore. I'll have a drink and make it a double.
Drew was a natural in front of the camera. In fact, she was more comfortable on the set than in the classroom.
The most part I like about is I get out of school. I feel better when I go to school at the movies. I don't like it. The real school, it's much harder.
The pint-sized celebrity was an outcast in first grade.
I would sometimes go back into a school, but it was only for a few weeks at a time. And you know how young kids are, they're mean. And they sort of feel like it's unfair that you get to go in and out of school, and I never really had friends in school.
Meanwhile, Drew's relationship with her father became even more strained. According to Drew's autobiography, Little Girl Lost, John Barrymore Jr. mocked his daughter's success. After years of absence and neglect, Drew confronted him, saying, I want you out of my life.
She went through an extraordinary amount of pain, and she really did feel the absence of a father figure.
Drew's safe haven remained film sets. In the movie Irreconcilable Differences, Drew played a young girl suing her parents for divorce because of emotional neglect. The role hit painfully close to home.
I could relate to certain things that she was going through with this dysfunctionalness, definitely. I felt like I could put a bit of myself in that character.
Drew was in demand, and the scripts poured in. Mom Jade acted as manager and passed on most of them. But one story caught her attention.
Drew was 8 years old when she got Firestarter, and it was her first starring role. The girl who can start fires with her telekinetic powers.
The film was loaded with special effects that led to some hair-raising moments on set.
Can you believe those wood chips that they threw at us today? Can you believe that fireball that nearly singed the back of my head?
Firestarter wrapped production in November 1983. 8-year-old Drew was still a kid, but according to her book, she began acting like an adult in all the wrong ways.
At the wrap party for Firestarter, Drew had her first drink.
I drank glasses of champagne for the first time, and it was thrilling.
Coming up, a little girl lost.
What's wrong with going out and exploring and experimenting and being crazy? I only live once.
By 1984, Drew Barrymore was a star. Drew wowed audiences in Irreconcilable Differences and E.T. the Extraterrestrial. But her own life was about to come crashing down to earth. In the fall of 1984, Drew started 4th grade. The 9-year-old actress had 4 feature film credits. However, being a normal kid was still her toughest role.
I was a total outcast. I wanted so badly to fit in with people, and it just didn't happen, you know, and I tried so hard, and I would run on that hamster wheel, and you know, I tried to wear the right clothes, I tried to listen to the right music, and it didn't work.
Physically, she developed at like, you know, very young, 10 or something, so she always, it wasn't even that there was this, you know, huge difference between who they were kind of in their lives, but also just even physically, it was a huge difference between her and the other kids her age.
I went out and experienced other things and gained, you know, other life experiences. But there was a whole section of child life that I felt like I couldn't relate to.
Drew's other life was a very different story. In January 1985, the 9-year-old actress was nominated for a Golden Globe Award as Best Supporting Actress in Irreconcilable Differences.
She has a sort of a positive energy that kind of glows. She is happy to be herself. She's happy to be on the screen. She's happy to be playing the character. And so there's a good feeling about it.
Drew didn't win the Golden Globe. She did win entree to Hollywood's hottest parties.
Drew started getting so much attention. She was a big star. And meanwhile, her mother, you know, is her manager. And she's always getting invites with Drew to all these events.
Jade took Drew everywhere with her, kept her out way too late all the time.
She used to come back and tell us how she drank champagne and how she was up all night. And we felt that it certainly wasn't a life for a child.
At the time, it just seemed sort of okay. It was like, okay, this is what we're doing now. And it seemed fun and exciting. I really enjoyed going out.
Drew and Jade soon became regulars at the trendiest hotspots on both coasts.
And they're in the same club all night, you know, they all get in together and then they go their own separate ways at the club. And Drew, meanwhile, is smoking cigarettes with her friend, you know, and she's just thinking she could get away with anything. She starts, you know, stealing drinks off tables.
I think her innocence, her childhood was almost lost in a way in that arena.
I used to go to Limelight and Helena's and, you know, Studio 54, all those fun, great, groovy people, and it was a great time.
By age 10, Drew says she went from sneaking drinks to getting drunk. Then, her partying hit a new high.
For a long time, I would go around saying, what's wrong with going out and exploring and experimenting and being crazy? I only live once. And just that little paragraph right there just got me in so much trouble. It gave me like a key to just go off and say goodbye to the world.
I don't think many boundaries were placed, and I think that she really didn't understand what boundaries she had.
Drew would go to her friend's house for sleepovers, and her friend's mother apparently smoked pot just regularly. Drew would sometimes grab some, and her friend would get high too.
When I felt like I was about 20, and that's exactly the time when you want to start partying. And also, because I had so many responsibilities, you tend to, at some point, want to rebel against that, and that's exactly what I did.
Drew began fighting more and more with her mother. Jade, meanwhile, remained oblivious to her daughter's growing problem with alcohol and drugs. Their relationship rapidly deteriorated.
Drew, because she is such a good actress, did keep a lot of it from her mom for quite a while, and I don't think her mom wanted to know about it.
In the fall of 1986, Drew began 6th grade in a new school. She felt more isolated than ever.
It's a junior high school combined with a high school. She, like at 12 years old, is partying with, kids who are 17, 18 years old. She's drinking and she's smoking pot.
I'd spend the night at friends' houses. We'd go, I'd sneak out or whatever.
Drew always found solace in acting. But for the 12-year-old star, the roles were drying up. Her self-esteem plummeted.
I was like a really heavy kid, and I wasn't getting that many jobs, and everything was just sort of strange and awkward, and I felt really uncomfortable in my skin, and it was just a terrible time.
She had so many people saying, you're a little chubby, you need to lose a little weight.
Drew managed to keep her struggle with substance abuse a secret. And in 1987, she became a spokesperson for Nancy Reagan's Just Say No anti-drug campaign.
Most kids feel pressure to use drugs and alcohol. I know because I've been pressured too. And you feel all alone. But you can say no, and you can help somebody else say no. That's what the Just Say No Club is all about.
That summer, Drew flew to Washington, D.C. to participate in a press conference with the First Lady.
She has pledged to help educate her friends and public at large about the dangers of drug abuse. We're very fortunate to have her with us today, and I present to you Drew Barrymore.
I'm very honored and happy to be here today. And I'd like to thank Mrs. Reagan for caring so much about the drug problem. Growing up today is very complicated. Kids are under a lot of pressure. One of the biggest pressures is the peer pressure to use drugs. I don't know any kid that hasn't had to deal with it, including me.
Drew sounded sincere, but she was living a lie. That December, Barrymore won a role in the film See You in the Morning, starring Jeff Bridges and Farrah Fawcett. A month later, Drew and her mother moved to New York City for the 4-month shoot.
And here she was filming a movie. Meanwhile, in her personal life, she is like going out clubbing on the New York club scene without her mom anymore, now with just her older friends. And just doing drugs.
I think that time in New York, I remember when I was 13, this moment where I took the stairs and I felt like my childhood took the elevator, and that was definitely a point where I knew, okay, you're on your own now, just go live.
Drew did more than just live. She painted the Big Apple bright red.
I would party at night and stuff so bad that I was surprised I made it to work in the morning.
The tension between Drew and Jade escalated.
There was a lot of conflict going on, It's like I didn't know whether to treat her like a partner or a mother.
By late April 1988, mother and daughter were back in L.A. Drew was already a notorious party girl, but she was about to cross a dangerous new line.
Drew had her first line of cocaine at her school's prom. So she's 13 years old, and it made her feel like she had no problems. She was the most charming person on the face of the planet. So she was just hooked on the confidence boost.
Barrymore's life became a non-stop booze and drug fest. Then, on June 28th, Drew came home from a night of binge drinking and laid into Jade.
I asked her to leave, and she said she would, and when I got home, she was there, and I was real drunk, and I got just real angry.
And this is Drew at 13, just completely drunk and yelling at her mom and swearing, and like her mom is just standing there, looking at her like shocked. And next thing she knows, her friend comes into the house along with her mom, and they help Drew's mom get her into a car, and they drive her to a rehab facility.
I was too drunk. I mean, I was like, they had to like practically carry me in there. But the minute I realized where I was and I was sober and it was the next day or whatever, I wanted out.
In June 1988, Drew reluctantly began therapy at the ASAP Family Treatment Center in Van Nuys, California. However, a prior film commitment cut her stay short.
After about 2 weeks, Drew was released to do Far From Home, her first role, transitioning into more teenage, more mature roles.
The rehab clinic assigned a counselor to travel with Barrymore to the small town of Gerlach, Nevada, where the film was shot.
She basically had a sponsor there with her, and even though she did go out, she didn't drink, and she stayed sober that whole time.
Far From Home wrapped on September 5th, 1988. The next day, Barrymore flew back to Los Angeles and begrudgingly returned to rehab. Just 6 days later, Drew left for New York to complete work on another film project.
She was doing the looping for See You in the Morning. She went out with some friends of hers, and they went to a club, and finally just succumbed to the temptation and did coke herself. She felt horrible after she did it, because that was like 3 months of sobriety, basically up her nose.
According to Drew's autobiography, she went on a rampage.
She decides, you know what, forget it, I've blown it, I'm gonna go and, you know, do as much as I can.
But the party wasn't over.
She steals money from her mom's bag and her mom's credit card. Her and her friend go off to LaGuardia Airport, fly to LA, where they go on shopping sprees, and they get more coke. And she calls her mom and tells her that she is at her friend's house. Of course, her mom doesn't buy it, and she sends over some private investigators.
On September 17th, 1988, detectives apprehended the runaway actress. Barrymore was handcuffed and taken back to the ASAP treatment center in Van Nuys.
3 months she stayed there, and basically she did some really like serious work on herself there at this time. Like she wasn't, you know, trying to get out of it. She wasn't going to end her stay early. She completely, you know, settled down and just worked and worked.
Drew tried to keep her ordeal out of the press, but Barrymore's cover was blown.
A reporter from Enquirer actually was at the ASAP Treatment Center a few days before Drew was scheduled to be released in December of 1988.
Drew wanted to tell her story her way. During her last week of rehab, she met with People magazine writer Todd Gold. For 7 hours over 2 days, she bared her heart and soul.
I felt like all of a sudden I might have had the chance to relate to people. All of a sudden my aloneness, maybe I didn't have to be so alone.
On December 21st, 1988, Drew left the ASAP treatment center after 96 days. But in early January 1989, the National Enquirer revealed Drew's secret to the world.
The story comes out just as she gets out that, you know, E.T. star in cocaine clinic at age 13, and it's this huge scandal.
Drew shook off the bad press. Happy to be sober, Drew was ready to restart her career with a daring new TV role.
Drew had just come out of her recovery when the role of a recovering alcoholic bulimic in 15 and Getting Straight came up. This mirrored her actual life, so it was a perfect fit.
I'm 15, I'm an addict alcoholic.
Drew returned to familiar territory in 15 and Getting Straight. The film was shot on location in Van Nuys at the ASAP Family Treatment Center.
I was drinking and smoking and snorting coke when I was 12 years old.
Then, on January 16th, 1989, People magazine hit newsstands. Drew's gut-wrenching story grabbed the attention of New York publishers. Drew signed a book deal with Simon & Schuster for Little Girl Lost. People magazine writer Todd Gold helped pen the autobiography.
I know, you know, what's happened to me is something that's happened to a lot of people. And I know that it makes me feel good when I know that I'm not alone. So that's why I wrote the book.
But digging up the past was rough. Drew found comfort in the arms of one of her co-stars, 17-year-old Corey Feldman.
You know, now we know he was doing his own fair share of heroin at the time. And I mean, they only did for 2 months.
In a 1997 interview, Feldman admitted that he did indeed use heroin. Drew managed to stay off drugs during her fling with Corey, but she continued to hang with the wrong crowd.
There's a big difference between being dry and sober. Dry is just, you know, you're doing the same things, you're having the same reactions, you're hanging out with the same people. All you don't have is the chemicals. And sober is where you change your life, you're working your program, you're changing your atmosphere, your scenery, the places you go, the people you go with. It's very different. And I wasn't doing any of that. I was dry. Very dry.
That March, Drew celebrated her 6th month of sobriety by smoking a joint.
She does a little bit of marijuana, and that makes her feel like a failure.
A few months later, Drew got high again. Meanwhile, her relationship with Jade hit an all-time low.
She had huge love for her mother. She respected her mother, and her mother loved her. I think it was really almost too much for both of them, and a little stifling for Drew.
Drew decided to move in with a friend in West Hollywood. She found part-time work at a local nightclub.
Drew was a cashier there. She was gonna go out anyway, and you know, I was sober and I was close with her mom, and I think Jade just felt like at least she was safe with me.
Still, Drew couldn't shake her overwhelming sense of failure.
You get to a place where you don't think you're gonna be able to come out of it. And your body like feels this certain way, and you don't feel like you're ever gonna feel different than that. You just sort of slide down and you kind of let it take you.
Then, on July 4th, 1989, Drew Barrymore bottomed out. Drew said she felt ugly, fat, and useless. As a cry for help, the 14-year-old put a kitchen knife to her wrist.
It wasn't really a real life suicide attempt where she really wanted to commit suicide. Then she was back to the ASAP Family Treatment Center again.
Drew spent 3 more arduous months back in rehab. She was released in October 1989 and moved in with her sponsors, musician David Crosby and his wife, Jan Dance. In his book, Long Time Gone, Crosby wrote about his harrowing battle with drug abuse.
They were both recovering addicts, and they took Drew in after that stay was over, because the counselors at ASAP thought that it would be better for Drew to have a halfway house experience.
It was just a good, sober environment where she could live.
And here she had a real father figure in David Crosby.
It was scary at first because I was used to answering to a guy, you know, like that. And it was very intimidating, but after I got used to it, it was great.
By 1990, 14-year-old Drew Barrymore was out of rehab, determined to stay sober and get back to work. But the once promising child star couldn't catch a break. In January, Drew left the home of her sponsors, David Crosby and Jan Dance, to move back in with her mother, Jade. However, their tumultuous relationship was beyond repair.
That was sort of the end of it, to tell you the truth. That was, you know, we just went in our separate ways and had to go and live different lives.
The high school freshman rented a small apartment in West Hollywood and took whatever job she could get.
She had saved some money, but it was a tough time.
Very quietly, I worked in coffee houses, and
everybody would go and they'd be like, oh my God, it's, you know, she would just be like, here's your cappuccino. Yeah. Making everybody's beverages for them.
And I didn't have a car, and I would get myself to auditions.
In April 1990, Drew's autobiography, Little Girl Lost, debuted at number 14 on the New York Times bestseller list. Meanwhile, Drew continued to juggle school, auditions, and her coffeehouse gig. Then, in January 1991, she decided to take control of her life. Drew filed a petition in juvenile court to become legally emancipated from her mother.
Drew was realizing, as much as I love my mom, And as much as I see how my mom loves me, this isn't really the healthiest relationship, and I need to start forging my own way.
Drew's petition was granted. As her first order of business, the 15-year-old adult dropped out of school. Drew focused full-time on recharging her acting career. A few months later, she made another big decision.
Drew was extremely uncomfortable with her 34 double D breasts, and she just felt just so awkward that finally she said, you know what, I'm just going to have breast reduction. And she did.
Drew was clean and sober, and her self-confidence was at an all-time high. But casting directors were skeptical.
She went through everything that struggling actors went through in a period where she had already been a huge child actor, and then she had to like sort of start over.
She had become more of a personality than an actress. She was a great risk for insurance purposes.
I understood the trepidations at first and the sort of, do you feel lucky to be here? I totally did. I got it.
She got treated badly in a lot of instances. You know, she really could have given up.
And eventually, word gets around town that you're doing well, you're doing good on your auditions. I almost got a studio movie, which was really helpful when I was 16. And then that audition led to someone talking to another person who was doing a low-budget film called Poison Ivy. And that was my first film back.
16-year-old Drew was cast as Ivy, a conniving teenager with an angel's face who wreaks havoc on her adopted family. Poison Ivy began filming in May 1991.
I must have gotten the days. I just fell in love with Ivy because she is the girl that you go to high school with and you envy and you hate her and you just, in your wildest fantasies, you would never become, but you just want to be her for a day.
This was Drew's first adult role. I mean, she played a teen, but in this movie, she basically has sex scenes with every member of the cast.
There were people standing by my side supporting me while I was portraying Ivy, which was very tough. I mean, there were times when I thought, am I crazy for doing this?
The film wrapped at the end of June. 3 months later, Drew's agent, J.J. Harris, introduced her to another client, 22-year-old actor and singer, Jamie Walters.
They were two of the most beautiful, physically really, really adorable people. And I did think they would be a good match. And they really did hit it off.
Still, Drew kept her priorities straight. Work first, romance second. In the spring of 1991, Barrymore read the script for a low-budget independent movie called Gun Crazy. Drew was determined to win the lead role of Anita, an abused teenager who becomes obsessed with a prison inmate. However, the film's director, Tamra Davis, needed some convincing.
I just kind of like tossed it aside. I was like, Drew Barrymore, she's the girl that I just saw dancing on the table at a nightclub. You know, like that was the last I'd heard of Drew. And, you know, like not thinking that she was at all taking acting seriously.
Drew wouldn't take no for an answer.
She was like, I am Anita, you know, and she really came in and just was like, I'm here, you know, I'm coming back. I want people to take me seriously. This is a part that I know I can do.
Davis was sold. On November 10th, 1991, Gun Crazy began shooting in Los Angeles. Drew threw herself into the emotional role.
The character of Anita was somebody that, you know, in order to gain acceptance, she let men take advantage of her. Drew understood that. Drew understood the pain of what it was like to want to be accepted and where you would go in order to try to get accepted.
In January 1992, Poison Ivy premiered at the Sundance Film Festival. Critics were blown away by Drew's bold performance.
I think that was probably a breakthrough role simply because she was able to do it. And people saw that they could count on her to kind of prove to Hollywood that she was back.
17-year-old Drew Barrymore was back. She was also in love. That February, Drew moved in with her new boyfriend, Jamie Walters. 4 months later, they were engaged.
Jamie Walters and Drew had a very serious relationship. They were very close. They were best friends. They just did everything together.
But Jamie wasn't the only man in Drew's life.
Her dad showed up on the scene after I'd been working with her for some time. He first called me and said, I'm Drew's dad and I need money. I need money from Drew. She never gave up trying to offer her heart and really her resources, her financial resources to him.
Meanwhile, a scandal gripped the nation.
Your Honor, the truth is, I did something that was so awful and I wish I could take it back.
17-year-old Amy Fisher was arrested for the attempted murder of Mary Jo Buttafuoco, the wife of her lover.
On May 19th, Amy Fisher came to my home, rang my doorbell, and viciously and deliberately assaulted me on the front porch of my home.
3 TV networks ordered films based on the sensational affair.
What actress did not want to play Amy Fisher? It was the story that had taken over like all the airwaves. All anybody was talking about was the Long Island Lolita.
Drew was cast in ABC's version of The Sordid Tale. The whirlwind shoot took place in Vancouver in November 1992.
That was a great chance for me to do the Amy Fisher story. I thought how amazing and challenging it would be to imitate someone rather than create someone.
Drew was hot, but her relationship with fiancé Jamie Walters cooled. That December, Drew returned home to some bad news. Walters called off the engagement and moved out.
They were just never together. The time apart, the distance just like took a toll on their relationship. And finally, they just, separated.
Drew took the breakup hard, but less than a week later, she got some good news. Barrymore was nominated for a Golden Globe as Best Actress in Gun Crazy.
This is such an honor to me. I'm so grateful to not only be a part of this, but that people recognized me in this film. I think someone needs to pinch me.
Drew didn't win the award, but she reestablished herself as a major player. On January 3rd, 1993, the Amy Fisher story aired on ABC, opposite the CBS version.
Like competing against each other. And in the end, her portrayal of Amy Fisher was really the best. Her movie was the most popular and it got tribute.
You want to do a little bit of hair?
In May, Drew's ego got another boost when she was named the next Guess Jeans Girl.
I remember her getting the phone call in the kitchen. She screams a lot on the phone. But this was it was a big moment.
I mean, that's like every person's fantasy, is to dress up and put on makeup and hair and model. I mean, we all do it in front of the mirror.
It served a purpose beyond my dreams of saying, here's Drew Barrymore. Look how gorgeous she's become.
In January 1994, Drew began work in New York on Boys on the Side, a tear-jerking melodrama about 3 women on a cross-country road trip. Drew played a young woman trying to cope with a bad situation.
She played an abused wife who at one point has to kind of take things into her own hands and take control of her own life.
I could not imagine anyone else, because Drew was this extraordinary combination of innocence and corruption, and Drew inhabited that character. She understood the girl better than I did.
During a break from shooting in February, Barrymore returned to LA. A friend introduced Drew to 31-year-old bar owner Jeremy Thomas.
He was a lovely guy. I mean, at that time, he was a good friend.
Drew and Jeremy began an intense relationship. On March 20th, 1994, the couple enjoyed a night out on the town. Then, at 2 a.m., Drew made a surprise move.
Drew proposed to Jeremy, and they called a 1-800-MARRY-YOU psychic.
I just thought it was a little couple in some bar in Hollywood that decided to get married, which I've had calls like that before. So I said, well, think about it for 20 minutes and call me back. And they waited exactly 20 minutes because I looked at the clock and they called me back.
Drew came and just told us, I'm going to get married. Like, wait a second.
We were sort of like, are you crazy?
At dawn, Drew Barrymore married Jeremy Thomas in an impromptu ceremony at his LA bar, The Room.
We did on the roof of that bar. Yeah. It was at like 6 in the morning or something. With the dog. With the dog. The dog that peed on her dress. On her dress. Mm-hmm.
Reality soon came crashing down, and Drew found it tough adjusting to the role of wife. Just days after getting hitched, Drew flew to Tucson, Arizona to finish shooting Boys on the Side. A month later, the film was in the can. Drew separated from Jeremy Thomas the very next day. Barrymore's 29-day marriage was over, but she was too busy to be despondent.
Drew was like trying to make movies and not just be one of the girls that comes in and reads and becomes an actress in the movie, but really become somebody that makes movies.
Drew decided to make another daring move. In the spring of 1994, the 19-year-old actress added producer to her resume. Drew formed Flower Films with partner Kim Greitzer.
She just said, you know, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to endorse myself.
They started it out of her house.
They did.
And they
Out of
just
the laundry room.
Right.
We're like these two silly girls who have like way too much ambition for our own good, and who really just want to like accomplish things in life and live out our dreams.
But Drew wasn't done with acting. In June, she flew to Seattle to star in Mad Love with Chris O'Donnell. Drew played a bipolar teenager who breaks out of a mental institution to run away with her boyfriend. Barrymore was paid $1.5 million for the role, her biggest paycheck to date.
What the hell are you doing?
Why did you call them?
I didn't know what else to do. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. For everything I've done to you.
Well, the role of Casey in Mad Love was very close to her because, again, the girl was kind of manic depressive. She had certain personal problems, psychological problems, and Drew was obviously no stranger to that area.
I was very aware that she's had a tough life and she's been through some pretty traumatic psychological times herself, and I was very careful to make sure that, as much as I could, that she was loved and looked after and cherished during the process.
It was pretty scary, I mean, because there were a couple of scenes that I didn't realize Drew had experiences that were so similar, and when she told me, it was really felt for, because, you know, it became very real.
You know, to use like anything, you know, that's inside of your soul that's painful and get to use it in a productive, you know, cleansing way, it just feels good.
But Seattle wasn't all work and no play. Drew met 31-year-old Eric Erlandson, guitarist for Hole, Courtney Love's band. Drew and Eric began dating.
He balanced her really well because he's very quiet, and even just physically, he's very tall and thin, and there she is, like a very little compact person. And they just, yeah, they were just madly in love.
Drew also forged another important relationship while on location.
We just sort of met and became friends quickly in a small environment, and then she really asked me to move to Los Angeles from San Francisco and start working with her at this company, Flower Films. So I thought, why not?
By the fall of 1994, Flower Films began to bloom.
I work with two of the greatest women, and that is Nancy Javonen and Kim Greitzer, and the three of us together are totally a creative pool, and it is equal, and I couldn't do it without them.
So we were handling everything from reading the scripts that came in to you know, redoing the tile, and I sort of just did anything and everything I could just to hit the ground running.
In 1994, Drew Barrymore launched her own production company, Flower Films. Barrymore and her partners put several projects into development, while Drew generated some excitement all by herself. 19-year-old Drew rang in 1995 with a revealing new look.
Playboy wanted to do a cover, and she thought it would be fun. And of course, she looked incredible. It was very good for her. Everybody in the world went, whoa. I mean, I think it established her overnight as a sex symbol.
She thought someday she's gonna wanna look back and think, I was really hot.
Steven Spielberg sent her a package, and in it was a blanket, and it said, cover yourself up. And then he had his visual effects department airbrush her photos in Playboy so that she was clothed.
Drew finally seemed comfortable with herself, and she wanted everyone to know. In early April 1995, the former child star performed an impromptu striptease at a hip New York nightclub.
Because when I was younger, I was so uncomfortable in my skin. I thought my body was a morbid concept that I was totally not at one with, you know? So to finally feel so free.
Then, on April 12th, Drew gave Late Show host David Letterman and CBS censors something to talk about.
When she went on Letterman, she was telling him about the fact that she had stripped a couple nights before. And the next thing you know, she jumps up on the desk and flashes him.
Only a really likable person could get away with that. She can get away with it because somehow it's not dirty with her. It just isn't. It's like cute and, you know.
Coquettish. Drew, in that period of her life, was embracing her womanhood.
Barrymore also embraced a new sense of freedom in her personal life. In June 1995, Drew's divorce from Jeremy Thomas became final.
We all have to experience a few things in life that are so strangely painful. And that was one for me.
Drew was ready for a new challenge. This time, she set her sights on a musical developed by one of her idols.
Drew wanted to be in Everybody Says I Love You primarily because Woody Allen was directing it.
The role that she played was a very uptight, buttoned up to here and perfectly coiffed young woman, and Drew was exactly the opposite of that.
Execs at Miramax were thrilled to have Drew on board, but there was a catch.
Harvey Weinstein pretty much leaned on her and said that if she wanted to do the Woody Allen movie, she would have to do this other movie. And so she ended up doing this kind of low-budget independent movie called Wishful Thinking.
Our goal was the Woody Allen movie. And so if we needed to do another one to get there, she did another one to get there.
While Barrymore worked her magic with Miramax, Flower Films suffered a setback. One of Drew's partners, Kim Greitzer, bailed out.
Kim said she was going to go take another job. So at that point, it was all in my lap.
Drew was hit with a big surprise in September. Her mother, Jade, appeared in a racy pictorial for Playboy.
I was really offended, and I think Drew was not happy about it. But I think always she wanted, and I'm gonna imagine continues to want her mom to be fulfilled and happy.
Drew's relationship with her mother remained rocky. Things weren't much better with Eric Erlandson. In the spring of 1996, the couple split.
I don't think that she was ready at that point to settle down.
Drew went back to work, searching for just the right project. The one that caught her eye was a real scream.
Read the script and I just thought this movie is really fun. It was completely in the vein and the genre of the scary movies that I loved growing up.
Barrymore was offered the lead role in the horror flick, but Drew had a different idea.
She wanted to do like a little side part instead because she actually really liked it. So she played the girl who dies right away, the first victim.
As soon as people see Drew Barrymore in the film, they think this is the star of the film. So to see 15 minutes in the movie, instead of escaping, she suddenly is nailed. It's like, oh my God. That puts the audience so off balance that they don't know what to expect from that moment on.
Drew died a dramatic death in Scream. Then, in June 1996, Barrymore co-starred with Luke Wilson in Best Men.
They flirted a lot, and they had something going on while we were shooting.
I think they kind of both had crushes on each other to begin with, and it was really sweet watching them fall in love.
By 1996, Drew Barrymore commanded nearly $2 million picture. Professionally and personally, the 21-year-old actress was on top of her game, and the good times were just beginning.
Well, good afternoon, Dorian.
Cut.
Cut.
In November 1996, Drew starred opposite her new boyfriend, Luke Wilson, in the dark comedy Home Fries.
It was just a real pleasure, because when you're on the set, you're just professionals. You're not boyfriend and girlfriend.
It was really, sort of adorable because they kept trying not to show me that they were in love, but it was just so obvious.
Drew was on a roll. On December 6th, Everyone Says I Love You opened to favorable reviews. 2 weeks later, Scream exploded onto the screen and became one of the highest-grossing horror films of all time. In early 1997, Drew was ready to try her hand at comedy.
Yeah, we were goofy for Adam Sandler. And we had a little script that we were sort of courting. He ended up saying, look, I'm not even going to look at what you've got, but I've got this great little thing called The Wedding Singer, and how about it?
Flower Films didn't produce the movie, but Drew signed on to co-star. Barrymore played a squeaky clean waitress. Sandler was a quirky crooner who longed to get married.
Because I was always laughing. I was doing that pinch skin thing where you're hurting yourself on purpose to try not to laugh because it's so funny. And we would get the giggles on this film so badly.
But Drew wanted to do more than act. In August 1997, Barrymore and her business partner, Nancy Juvonen, took some ideas to execs at Fox Studios.
We were finally ready to come in and present our, we'd like to be producers presentation. And they said, okay, we'll do it, a 2-year first look deal. And we said, okay, great. And we remember, running out of Bill Mechanic's office. We were so excited.
Flower Films secured a 2-year development deal with Fox. The first project to get a green light was a high school comedy titled Never Been Kissed. Drew took on the lead role.
She was the one who found it. It was kind of it was a script that needed a lot of work, and it was like early development, but the core idea was there.
But first, Drew fulfilled a prior obligation with Fox. In September 1997, she went to work on Ever After. The story put a fresh spin on the children's classic, Cinderella.
It's a really, really wonderful story about this woman who is, sort of the antithesis of the Cinderella we know. She does not only not wait to be rescued, she rescues other people.
Once I started talking to Drew about it, it was like, let's do the real story, but let's have no magic pumpkins. Let's not have anything, no fairy godmother.
Drew brought plenty of attitude to the role, and she was rewarded with the princely sum of $3 million.
We brought Drew in and really built the movie around her. That Drew felt that it was her story, and was deeply committed to it, and actually helped us put the movie together.
Ever After wrapped filming in the south of France in November. Back in LA, Drew was anxious to lend a hand to some worthwhile causes. She volunteered for a wild animal rescue organization and the Female Health Foundation.
Hi, what did you do to protect yourself today? I think one of the biggest reasons why kids in particular don't use condoms.
I know I have a purpose and a destiny. I love my philanthropic work, and I feel like it's what fulfills me as a person more than anything else.
In February 1998, The Wedding Singer was released. The romantic comedy made more than $50 million in its first 3 weeks of release.
Drew and Adam Sandler are amazing together. They're like the comedy team version of Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers.
Then, on July 1st, Drew and Nancy Juvonen went into production on their first project for Flower Films, Never Been Kissed. Drew turned to her own painful past to find inspiration for the role of geeky Josie Geller.
My grade school experience was just like Josie's. She is very much what I was in grade school, and I sort of pulled a lot of that from my research in this film. And to, it's like you can never go too far into the geekdom.
I made her eyebrows very thick and very dark, and her hair was in this crazy ponytail. And she came to this set, and really, your heart went out to little Josie Grossi. I mean, she became Josie Grossi.
Drew was not only the star, she was also the executive producer.
Never Been Kissed was a little nerve-wracking. It was Flower Films' first film, and it was a lot riding on their shoulders.
Meanwhile, Barrymore and Juvonen looked for their next project. In September 1998, Nancy came up with an interesting proposal.
I knew that there was a script somewhere at Columbia, and they'd been trying to make this movie for about 10 years, which to me seemed like a no-brainer, but, certainly wasn't the case.
The film was a feature-length version of the 70s TV series Charlie's Angels. Barrymore and Juvonen optioned the property and got to work. But Drew's hectic schedule strained her personal life. In December 1998, Barrymore and Luke Wilson called it quits after 3 years together.
The relationship between Drew and Luke Wilson ended for the same reasons that a lot of her other relationships ended. Just distance, not enough time together, not enough priority on the relationship.
4 months later, in April 1999, Never Been Kissed was released. The film scored with critics and at the box office. Drew and Nancy were thrilled.
We were just really proud of that film. We were proud of the whole package. Like, wow, we've done it now. Now we've produced a movie.
In the spring of 1999, pre-production on Charlie's Angels was in full swing. Drew and her business partner looked for the right director to yank the charming crime fighters into the 21st century.
We decided to finally meet with McGee. He was a video director. Hard to translate that into a storyteller. And we didn't understand his name, and we just thought, this can't be Charlie's, and come on.
About 5 minutes in, I was sort of, ripping my jacket off and standing on the table, and she was jumping up and, tearing off, clothes and bouncing around.
He had such a great handle on this film, and finally somebody was really speaking our language. And we went in and pitched it to Amy Pascal.
Pascal was president of Columbia Pictures. She trusted Drew as an actress and a producer, but other execs at the studio were skeptical.
She got Amy Pascal to commit to Charlie's Angels with no elements, just her excitement, her feelings about a director, a general sense of what it would be. It violates every known rule. There is no script. The only cast is Drew. She's a producer, but I don't think we can do it.
Barrymore forged ahead, confident that Charlie's Angels had wings. Drew took the role of talking angel, Dylan. She then set out to find her 2 kick-ass cohorts.
Cameron Diaz was talked about for Natalie's role.
Her agents, her manager said, Cameron won't do this. It's not the kind of thing she looks for in a movie.
We had a secret weapon in Drew the whole time. No one can say no to Drew Barrymore.
2 down, 1 to go.
We'd always described the third angel, Alex, as being the glamorous one. They talked about Catherine Zeta-Jones, they talked Lauryn Hill, Tandy Newton.
And then as time rambled on and we were thinking, my gosh, what are we gonna, where's our pick?
I needed someone who could stand up to the other 2 in a 3-shot, with equal weight. As soon as Lucy Liu walks in the room, she's just a powerhouse.
Liu, Diaz, and Barrymore made a formidable team. And veteran funny man Bill Murray seemed perfect for the part of John Bosley, the Angels' quirky go-between.
Yeah, the Angels, I care. What about Bosley?
Meanwhile, Drew had her eye on oddball comic Tom Green for a special part in the film.
I've gone through a window before, but I've never had a window go through me before. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Drew loved the Tom Green show. She's a huge fan.
She went to drinks with him just to meet him, and she said, do you want to come play? And he said, sure.
Green wanted to do more than play. So did Drew.
Drew saw this energy in him that she really dug and thought would be great for the movie. And it was not just great for the movie, it was sort of great for her too. They were adorable as a couple.
Green and Barrymore became the talk of Hollywood. Meanwhile, in January 2000, Charlie's Angels went into production. But the shoot was troubled right from the start.
And as soon as you register the anger, get on out of there.
It was a tough script to sort of figure out how we're going to do, our 3 angels and their sort of subplots and the villain and Bosley and getting everything fit together.
Yeah, we never really had a locked draft.
Things weren't much better on the set. According to published reports, creative differences surfaced between Lucy Liu and Bill Murray.
It got reported as being this sort of big, massive blowout. Both had very strong opinions about sort of how a specific scene needed to play. They're both people who, when they know they're right, they know they're right.
There was also plenty of speculation about tension among the 3 angels.
A lot of people were just digging for, some kind of cat fight or dirt or whatever, and there just never was.
We're having the most amazing time on this movie, and we laugh, and we are an amazing team together.
But there was nothing enjoyable about what happened in March 2000. Drew's boyfriend, Tom Green, was diagnosed with testicular cancer.
She'd be with us on the set and sort of, leading an army of 300 people, nobody working longer than her, and then, she'd pack it up and she'd be there and she'd be nurturing for Tom at that difficult time.
She's my angel in real life.
Drew nursed Green through his ordeal and his recovery. Then, in August, the couple became engaged. However, Barrymore's other love, Charlie's Angels, wasn't faring so well.
We felt pretty good about what we had, but you know, the chatter on the street was the film's a disaster and it's going to completely tank in its opening weekend.
Everybody was getting slightly shell-shocked because everywhere you turned, there was bleak comment about it, and then it opened, and then it was all over.
Charlie's Angels premiered on November 3rd, 2000, and proved everyone wrong. The film blew audiences away.
And she knew that everybody who doubted her was going to have a changed opinion by the time they left the theater, and she was right.
Angels eventually soared to $125 million at the box office.
There was not a lot of pride attached to it as much as just a sense of...
In 2000, the box office success of Charlie's Angels proved that 25-year-old Drew Barrymore was a double threat as an actress and producer. Barrymore was engaged and life was good, but Drew was about to see her dreams go up in smoke. In July 2000, Barrymore and Javonen decided to switch gears. They produced Donnie Darko, a low-budget black comedy starring Jake Gyllenhaal.
We just thought, after going from this behemoth, let's go back to the grassroots filmmaking. And we made the film for $4 million, and that was sort of important to our souls, and to have that sort of a balance.
Whatever she's working on, she always walks in the room with a ton of excitement for it, as if it's the first time she's ever done it.
Drew also showed plenty of enthusiasm for her fiancé, comic Tom Green.
Huh? Well, I mean, I'm a lady and I love Tom Green, so...
Wow. Still, acting was Barrymore's passion. Drew had her heart set on playing a pregnant teenager and riding in cars with boys. Columbia Pictures was behind the project, and Penny Marshall signed on as director. Marshall wasn't convinced Barrymore had the chops to pull off the dramatic role.
I fought for it. I auditioned for it so many times for Penny, and, you know, like, did everything I could to prove to her that I could do this.
Well, I wanted to see if she was game enough not to use her safety net of being just this likable girl to expose some of the hard life she has had as a human being.
Eventually, Drew won the part. Shooting began in August 2000. Drew's portrayal of a single mother opened old wounds.
She wasn't Drew, but everything that has allowed Drew to be Drew came out in that role. Riding in cars with boys was emotional because I think everyone has some issues with their mothers.
And Drew certainly had issues with her mother, Jade.
During the filming of that movie, she did see her mom, and it was okay. Drew's accepted that she wasn't dealt a great card in the mother department.
Filming wrapped on February 1st, 2001. Drew was exhausted from the emotional shoot. Then, on the morning of February 18th, Barrymore and fiancé Tom Green got a rude awakening.
They were in the house sleeping at the time. The fire occurred a little after 3 a.m. this morning.
Her dogs sniffed out the fire and went and woke them up.
And the smoke detectors activated simultaneously and alerted them, and they were able to get out of the home. Are you okay?
Oh yeah, we're great. Everything we own is gone.
Other than the fact that the house burned down.
They don't hold on to everything.
Going through so much turmoil together, there was a bond that was formed.
The bond became official on July 7th, 2001. Drew and Tom were married in Malibu. Barrymore was 26, Green 30.
Drew goes up the aisle, she's gorgeous. Tom is waiting for her, he's proud, and we all have our ceremony booklets.
What seemed like a subdued event suddenly turned into a real-life sitcom.
And we start reading, and by the third sentence in, it dawns on all of us we're reading about race car driving.
Everybody was on the floor, just dancing around to funny 80s things, and Adam Sandler was doing some goofy little kind of, dance, and Courtney Love was just being wild and kind of out there, and it was more entertaining than most movies.
But the fun didn't last. In December 2001, just 6 months after the couple exchanged vows, Green filed for divorce.
What she was really attracted to was the humor, and but ultimately I think they're just really different people.
Meanwhile, Drew kept herself busy. She fought for a killer role in George Clooney's directorial debut, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
And I would just be always like running in front of the bus, like, pick me, please. I just want to do this so much.
Drew reportedly beat out Oscar winner Gwyneth Paltrow and Renee Zellweger for the part of naive, flower child Penny Pacino. Pacino was the wife of Gong Show host and alleged CIA hitman Chuck Barris. Filming began in January 2002.
There aren't very many actresses that can play that kind of innocence and it doesn't seem acted.
In March, Drew took a break from filming to walk down memory lane. E.T. was re-released in theaters on its 20th anniversary.
So much of the reason I have the life that I have, that I love so much, is because of this film. So much of what kind of person I am is because of the experience of making this.
Drew Barrymore ranked among Hollywood's top power brokers. Drew had 34 films and 4 producer credits under her belt. And she was only 27. Professionally, Drew was riding high. But after 2 divorces, her love life wasn't exactly on target. Then, in April 2002, Barrymore met Fabrizio Moretti, drummer for the New York-based rock band The Strokes.
They truly sort of locked eyes across the stage. And then they met and they really sort of truly had that love at first sight thing.
She exalted and he exalted, and I think the heavens opened up and starbursts went through the sky and little animated hearts went everywhere.
More good news. In the summer of 2002, Drew reunited with Angels Cameron Diaz and Lucy Liu for Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. Once again, Drew's company, Flower Films, produced the film. And this time, there was a twist.
You know, we didn't really know what to do with it, but one of the ideas that John August had was for a fallen angel. So we just sort of thought, if we're going to do the fallen angel, it has to be Demi Moore.
Moore virtually disappeared from the Hollywood radar for 5 years. And she wasn't thrilled about doing the Angels sequel. Still, Drew didn't take no for an answer.
That came about the same way we got Cameron to agree to be in the first picture. Secret weapon, Drew Barrymore, insert here, guaranteed success.
Demi was in, but Bill Murray was out. Drew and director Mick G decided to give Bosley a whole new look.
We wanted to just expand our horizons, you know what I mean? And I didn't want this to be a lily white picture. You know, I got to thinking about Bernie Mac, and I've been a huge fan of his stand-up act, and I go, you know, we could use somebody with a fresh voice.
And I got a chance to play with the girls because the girls was my friend. Drew was my producer, and honest to God, she's one of the best producers I've had.
The Power Pack sequel was shot in the fall of 2002.
Yeah, let's get it all lined up exactly where we need it.
6 months later, Drew teamed up again with Adam Sandler for the romantic comedy 50 First Dates. Drew played Lucy Whitmore, a woman with an unusual problem, recurring short-term memory loss.
And in 50 First Dates, she has an incredible challenge. She has to fall in love with this guy again every day and make it convincing.
Barrymore was more than convincing. She helped turn the film into a surprise hit.
She has an astonishing fan base. I mean, there's a kind of world of people that are always responsive to her. Put it together with Adam Sandler, and you can retire.
On June 27, 2003, Drew attended the LA premiere of Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. The summer sequel grossed more than $100 million in the United States alone.
Drew had grown as a producer, she'd grown as an actor, she'd grown as a woman.
The Hollywood Chamber of Commerce took notice. On February 3, 2004, Drew received a star on the Walk of Fame.
As the ceremonial mayor of Hollywood,
I hereby proclaim this Drew Barrymore Day in Hollywood.
The thing about Drew is that she is Hollywood royalty, but she would be the very last person to tell you that.
Drew became the 5th Barrymore to be immortalized with the coveted star.
Oh my God! This is insane. Thank you. By the way, this is such an honor. My grandfather's profile and feet and hands are right there. I'm really honored to be near my family. That's, I think, the coolest thing for me. So, thank you so much. Thank you. I will never forget this day.
Drew lost a member of her famous family on November 29, 2004, when her father, John D. Barrymore, died of cancer. John D. Barrymore was 72. Drew and her father ended their estrangement before his death. Drew visited his bedside often, and the two became close. Meanwhile, Drew's relationship with her mother, Jade Barrymore, remained a work in progress.
It takes two people to heal bad situations, so if they both choose to heal that, they'll be friends again.
Drew was once written off as a little girl lost, a hopeless drug addict who fell victim to the Barrymore curse. But this Barrymore silenced the critics and put a marquee Hollywood name back up in lights.
Drew is perfectly positioned to have the life of a complete disaster.
Growing up today is very complicated.
And there's no reason why she should have come out as well as she did.
Sometimes things, live up to your expectations. Sometimes you're a little bit disappointed. But the whole key to it is to keep on trucking and do your thing and believe in yourself and pick yourself up by your bootstraps. And if there's anybody on the planet who's done that, it sure as hell Drew Barrymore.
She always took the road less traveled. And it's the decisions she's making, the movies that she's doing, the life she's living. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
I've never known anyone to get back on the horse immediately after being bucked off, kicked off, slammed off. It doesn't matter what happens, she gets right back up there.
What doesn't kill you make you stronger. It's true. Until you've gone through all the crap and you've survived it and you come out the other side, and if you can grow from it, then that's what life is all about, experience, That's why no regrets. Personally, I think glamour is creating your own style. It's all about the cleavage and reinventing yourself. You should look in my closet. It's the same stuff I had since I'm a good person to ask fashion tips about. I was in the 8th grade. It's cords and sneakers and hideous little boy clothes. The truth of the matter is I'm very geeky and real silly, and I'm much more of a kid now than I was when I was actually a kid. I only make every worst dress list in the world. I'm a female drag queen, personally. I don't have what it takes to be a diva. I love French fries. They're amazing. It's like potato, you can do anything with a potato, though. My life is what it is. Fried, mashed. I can't imagine it any other way.
It's a potato kind of world.
A potato, you put it in the soil and you put another potato next to it and more potatoes grow. They they make love through the air. Help me avoid the carbs, please. I have a good life.